Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video we're going to try to do some XY plots with ComfyUI, and in order to do that we're going to need to have 3 different extensions, and you can choose which extension, or let's say custom nodes is your preference, but I'm going to show you all 3. So open up ComfyUI and make sure that you have, of course, updated to the latest, so you can click on this update all and then restart your ComfyUI. Once you've done that, come back into the Comfy Manager, click install custom nodes, and go ahead and install the list of custom nodes that you see in front of you. The one that will give us the XY plots is the efficiency nodes, the tiny terror nodes, and the comfy roll. These are the 3 extensions that we'll be looking at today. Just be careful that you're installing the correct efficiency nodes, because there's this big red notice here that the original repo is no longer maintained and a new maintainer is helping us keep the efficiency nodes. So if you're ever wondering what happened to the efficiency nodes, this is what happened. We have a new version from JAGS 111. So once you have that installed, you'll notice here you've got the efficiency nodes menu here. You've got the TTN, that's the tiny terror, and then the comfy roll in your menu. Okay, but before we actually put together a workflow, I want to give you 2 tips. Okay. All right. The first tip is something that's helped me a lot recently. So if we load default workflow here, you'll see you've got these nodes, and you don't know where they came from. Did they come from something out of the box, or did they come from an extension you have installed? So there's a cool little trick. If you go to the manager and there's this badge here that's set to none by default, you can pick something other than none, and like I chose hash ID nickname. When you do that, you see this little label or badge appear on the top of each one of these nodes, and that's really, really helpful, because now you know, or at least it gives an indication of what extension that comes from. And just to make it clearer, if I went to efficiency nodes and I said efficiency loader, you can see here the badge gives me efficiency nodes. And that really helps me a lot, especially when working with these custom nodes and this big noodle space. Right, so I hope that first tip helps you. Then the second tip is, if you went ahead and installed the custom scripts over here, that gives you a way to save your workflows. So you can now right click on the empty canvas, workflow image, export as PNG. Now that gives you a way to export this workflow as PNG. Okay, that's different to the save here, like save as JSON. Right? So that's just the tip 2. All right, so let's go ahead and start to do some XY plotting. First one is the efficiency nodes. So let's clear this up. And of course, you can double click and search, or you can use the menu. But I'm going to use the menu just to show you where everything is. So I click on efficiency nodes, loaders, efficiency loader. This is the loader for our checkpoint and our positive prompt and negative prompt. Sorry, positive prompt and negative prompt. Got a bit tongue-tied there. And then also we have to, of course, have a sampler. So we add a node, efficiency node, and the K sampler. Now we just need to drag these up. So drag them to the correct corresponding left and right. Okay. And then, of course, we've got this little image over here on the output. So we can drag that out and If you want to save the image, you're welcome to, but for this demonstration, we're just going to preview the image. Now, as it stands now, this should work. So just make sure. Okay, awesome. It does work. Okay, but obviously it's not what we want to do. We want to be doing kind of XY plotting here. So what we want to be using is this script here. So if we add a new node and we click on scripts, we have this XY plot script. So we can connect the script to that script and these dependencies to these dependencies. Okay, so just neaten it up a little bit. Now we want to control our XY values over here. And just for the demo purposes, we want to say, let's say the X is our CFG scale and the Y is our sampler. So if we add some XY inputs, they give you various ways, custom nodes for the input. So we'll say CFG scale is our X and sampler is our Y. Okay, so what it's saying here now is batch count is 3, so we want to go 7, 8, and 9. And then for the sampler, we have 3 samplers. You can increase the samplers by going and changing this input count. So if we just say Euler A, and we'll do DPM++, and we'll do this one, okay? So that's our X and Y, and let's preview that. All right, so there it is. There's our image, our XY plot. Very, very nice. And also noticed something, I don't know if anyone's aware, but there's this 1 to 9 button here. If you click that, you can cycle through the images. Or if you click the cross, it gives you your individual images as well as the preview. One thing I want to go through extra on the efficiency nodes is right now the decode is set to true. If you set this to false, then this is not going to work. You will need to actually have a decode here and then do that. Okay, so let's just make sure that the BAE decode is true if you want to just pipe out the image directly. Okay. All right, so now let's just reset that back. Set that to true. All right, one more thing I want to show you here is they do have some documentation on this. So if we look over here, they have this manual XY entry info, and it gives you a bunch of examples on what type of inputs you can choose, and you can copy paste from this list samplers, schedulers, VAEs, and so on. So that's one way. The other way is, and the reason why there's this manual info is if, let's say, I don't want to use this particular one, I want to do it manually with like a multi-line. You go here and you can say input this one, manual XY entry, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just swap out this, okay? And I'm going to choose the sampler, and now I have to put in the sampler here, all right? And the way we do that is just make sure I have it correct. So it says that we have to put a semicolon between each one of them. Okay, so if I did that, that should work. Let's see if this works now. Okay. Great, so that works. So if you prefer the manual entry versus the more graphical text, graphical control widget, then you can use the manual entry. Just make sure that you have semicolons between each one of them. And I think new lines also work. So you can do something like this. Let's double check. Yep, okay, awesome. All right, so that's how you do XY plots with efficiency nodes. Okay, let's try the next custom nodes example, which is the tiny terror example. So clear this out and let's look for the tiny terror. So we add a node. TTN is the tiny terror nodes. Pipe loader. Okay, so a similar thing, gives us our checkpoint and it gives us our positive and negative prompt. So let's put that in. Okay, and then we need a sampler. So we go back here and we pipe case sampler. That's the one we're looking for. Now, a lot of these are optional, so you just need to drag from the pipe to the pipe, which is quite nice. And again, they have a image output, so we can preview the image. And if we look at that as it stands, just again making sure everything works. Okay, awesome. Okay, it does work. Let's now use this XY plot over here. So what we do is go back to this pipe and they have this XY plot. Drag that there. And then here in the X-axis and the Y-axis, we have to choose what we want. So we can say CFGs here, and on the Y, the sampler name. Now the syntax, very explicit on this one, all right? You have to have semicolon and space, okay? So we can do 7 semicolon space. If you don't put the space, it doesn't always work. Okay. So here is our samplers. And that should be it for the tiny terror. Cue that up. And there we go. XY plot with the tiny terrors. Felt a little bit easier and simpler than the actual efficiency nodes, but I think everyone's more familiar with the efficiency nodes than the tiny terror nodes. All right, last up is the comfy role, okay? And this one's going to be a little bit more complicated, but let's see if we can get through that, okay? So we need to clear out our workspace. And let's start with our loaders, right? And for this, we'll use the efficiency loader and the efficiency K sampler. All right. So let's just get this all linked up. Okay, and all right, make sure we're selecting the right checkpoint, and we have a positive, negative prompt. Oops. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to control the CFG value and this sampler value. So in order to control them, we need them as inputs. So go ahead, right click on here, say convert CFG to input, convert scheduler name to input. Okay, that's just preparing us to get these as inputs. Okay, and now we need some custom nodes, which are the comfy role nodes. So let me just get them onto the canvas. So if we add a node, comfy role, XY list, it's the start. Then we need from folder, and I'll explain a little bit as we go along. Okay, and I guess one more, I think it's CR image output, this one. Okay, very good. All right, so the way this works is we're going to use this X and Y over here. So let's say again, X will be our CFG, so we'll say 7, 8, 9, and I grab my samplers, and this Y will be the samplers. So what's going to do is I'm going to say at index 1, it's 7, and then at index 2, it's 8, at index 9, and it's going to repeat that for each one of the samplers, so it's actually going to run 9 times, so 3 by 3, all right, so it's going to run 9 times. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that this index changes or cycles through 9 times, okay? So in order to make that index cycle 9 times, we have to be able to control it in some way. So I'm going to convert that index to an input. Then I'm going to add a primitive node, and I'm going to connect these two up. I'm going to start at 1, but then over here I'm going to say increment. And so what really control after generation means that when you go to this extra options here on the menu, and I say 9 here, batch count 9, then this value is going to go from 1 to 9 each time, okay? And that means this index will change from 1 to 9. I hope that's sort of clear. All right, now we want to connect all the trigger points on each one of these. We just need to join the triggers. So let's make sure the triggers are inputs on each one of them. Okay, and now let's connect those up. So this trigger goes here. This trigger goes here, and this trigger goes there. Okay. Now we want to make sure we connect the images. So this image goes to there, and this image coming out of our K-sampler goes into this output. Okay. All right, so we're almost there. Basically, the flow is starting here with our trigger point, running through a 3 by 3 grid, and outputting each of the images into a folder. And then once the images are in a folder, we will combine those images into a grid. So it's kind of how this comfy role workflow works. Okay. I do like to keep my images as PNG, so just making sure that these are PNG. Okay, so far so good. What we're missing is right in the beginning we converted CFG and sampler name to inputs, and we want these X and Y to go in there. All right, so if I drag this X out and I just let go here in empty space, it tells me X is a string. If I do the same thing with CFG, it tells me CFG is a float. So somehow I have to get this X converted. And what you can do is just search for a string to number, and then comfy role gives us this conversion. So CR is comfy role. So we start there, and we know that CFG is a float, right? Because it told us a float. So we can say this goes there. That's a start. But in the text, there's no input yet. So we have to convert text to input. Now we can take this X here. All right, so we have the CFG. Next is sampler name. Sampler name, if I drag that out, it tells me it's a combo, okay? And of course this should still be string. All right, so Y is a string. So let's search for string to combo, this one. And thankfully they have text as input now. Put that there, and then this any goes to the sampler name. All right, so we have our X and Y going into our sampler. We have all of these. Okay. All this ready. Just gonna refresh for a second. Okay. All right, the one thing I want to show you is ComfyUI image folders are a bit strange in my opinion, but this is how it works. If I want to change this value, I can't right now. If an input folder says demo, yours might be undefined or it might be null, but I'm double clicking, I'm clicking the arrows, and I'm getting nothing. Right? Even this output folder, I can't change it. So the way this ComfyUI works, it was kind of hard to find out initially, but you got to go to your ComfyUI folder. You got to go to output, and you got to create the folders here that you need. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I put two folders in here, one where I want the individual images and one where I want the grid. Okay. Once those folders exist, you can refresh your browser. You don't have to restart Comfy. You can just refresh your browser. Now, if I click on this, it pops up and actually shows me the two folders. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You need to have the folders pre-created for you. So here, we want to set this as the demo for the individual folders, and the output as the grid. And then here, this you just want to change as well. So you want your file prefix to include the folder. We have demo / that. Okay. And I think that's it. I'm also going to change this to save, so it saves the file. But let's actually try this. Oh, wait. Sorry, before we go. This is a 3x3 grid, so we have to tell it here what that means. So we're starting at 1. We need to go to 9, and the number of columns we have is 3. Okay, now we can cue the prompt. Okay, so it creates the grid, right? And I think here we actually have the grid too, right? So now your folders have the individual images and the grid. So far so good. Well, I don't know if this is a bug with the Comfy role, but it doesn't actually show the labels on the X and Y axis. So what is the CFG and what is the sampler name? It's not showing them. I'm not sure I've done anything wrong, but if you know why it's not showing, please leave a comment for me so I can fix this workflow. And I'll leave all the links in the description below. But that's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to learn more about Stable Diffusion and ComfyUI, check out the links below in the description. As always, please support this channel by subscribing and clicking the like button below.